Hello guys, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Daily Teachings. Guys, today was S&P SPY 500 day today. So that was special day today. You remember when SPY broke out of 500. So, we played that breakout. So I'm going to recap that as well. And but anyways, before I start, just a quick introduction for anybody who's watching my video first time or who is new to me, my channel or my Twitter. So guys, I do these recaps, which are recaps of our trades, trade ideas, anything we discuss in the community, my trades, my traders in the community, they are trading, and where we making money, how we losing money. If we lose on some trades, why did we lose? And if we won some trades, why did we win those trades? What we do in our community is repeatable setups, repeatable system. We do not trade anything random. We have set up 15-16 setups that we trade every day. We trade with the system every day, and that's how we do it. Every day, few hours before market open, my team, we are up. We go through all the news sources. We share with our community the wake up summary, pre-market movers 2, any big news, upgrades, downgrades. I share everything with my community, and going through all that, then what we do is we create a watch list with a game plan. This was a watch list today for a game plan. You can see coin, MSTR, NVDA, DVAC up top there with other plays like NET, AFRM, EXP, Bill, Pins, TTWO. So these were all our plays today that were on the game plan. I shared the key levels and game plan with the community 15 minutes before market open so that everybody can choose their play and make their plan to trade them accordingly. Not only that, I also share levels on marketplace. What are marketplace? Marketplace are the plays which are we repeat every day, which are market dependent, which work with SPY, QQQ, and so what I create those levels every day for everyone. And you can see, especially today, the levels on SPY worked out pretty good for us on the breakout trade. The level on NVIDIA, which I shared in the news play, worked out pretty good. The levels on SMCI from 710, 714, 50 pivots worked out pretty good. So these levels come pretty handy for our traders to trade with them. When I go through a particular trade, I will recap that. That being said, I'm on voice after the market opens, first 2 hours, guiding my community through the trades, guiding my community through the market, what's market doing, what's SPY doing, what's QQQ, and what's happening. I share everything, and then we go through our trades. So that being said, guys, introduction in, let's start with a recap of our first play of the. So guys, the first one I'm really going to discuss is SMCI. It's on our list every day. It's our market play, and we know how hot the semiconductor sector is. It is just keeps going up every day, each day. There's no stopping. The semiconductor moves. Even today, SMCI moved 36 bucks. Its ATR right now is 41 bucks, but it moved $36 today. Let's look at our plan initially. So the levels on SMCI were simple. 700 was a support pivot psychological level. The resistance was 710 and 714.50. So let's look at here. So the first pivot, resistance pivot, was 710. And that resistance pivot is right here. You know how we build those pivots based upon the pre-market level. And the second pivot was right up here. So I saw the strength, and I shared with my community. Let's look here. So I said watch the pivot breakout. When I say pivot breakout, I mean these 710s and this yesterday highs pivot breakout. And all we need to do is on Friday we need to trade the Lottos. So I told my community that we can trade the Lottos and we can keep rolling those Lottos further, and whenever they're profitable. So anyway, so that was I was mentioning as a voice guidance to go long on SMCI. And 725 Lotos went from $6 to $10. And my next target, I gave them 730, then I gave them 740, 745. At this point, we are just trading the 5 multiples as our next targets. When one target meets, the next multiple I'm taking as a 5 multiples. That's the strategy I'm doing. So 745 Lotos, I told everybody to roll into those 745s, and with the profit. And even that I shared around 10 a.m. and even that 745s went in money, and even those paid up pretty nicely, 100% on those 725s, even 745s went in money. And you can see here they paid up. 745 was my target. It met. And after that, when it pulled back, broke 512, I was out. So this was our trade, guys. A lot of guidance was on voice, so you do not see it, but the whole community did really good on SMCI. Very proud of SMCI's execution. We know this is the sector, this is the stock which is hot, and you need to capitalize on that. Nothing is too high. Just find your risk levels and trade it. And today being Friday, I personally traded the shares, but today being Friday, you could trade Lotos as well. If you traded shares, if you bought 710s, your risk was 705s. If you bought it 714, your risk was a little wider, but you risked $5, $6, $7 and you made $30. So that is one risk to 5 reward trade, my friends. Let's go to the next one. All right, guys, the next one we're going to discuss is NVDA. All right, guys, so let's talk about NVDA today. So how did we nail NVDA? So let's go back. First, we go to our news place. NVDA is a building custom design unit to focus on AI data center chips and other markets. So that was the news. We had a bunch of pivots on NVIDIA today. We had 693.98 as our support. We had 706 and 710 as our resistance pivots. If market strong, watch for pivot back to highs. That was the plan that I gave everybody in the pre-market for NVIDIA. All right, guys. So let's look at all the pivots we had, right? So the first pivot was 706, 710. Right, and I was on the voice, and initially when it was pulling back, that's fine, you do not need that. But when it started to pull here at 10 a.m., you see this, right? You see this pre-market high breakout. That's when I tell everybody that we can trade NVIDIA long and we can trade the Lotos on NVIDIA. I talked about 710 Lotos on voice, and after that it was just planning and holding the trade. You can see here 710 Lotos started moving green, and then more move on 710s. 710s went 100%. I told everybody to roll if it's holding trend. I told them that at 11 a.m. that you can roll it, and that's what happened. Then NVIDIA flag break. So there is my the flag break alert. So you can see here's the flag breaking. Here's as I'm telling everybody about the flag break. I even shared this idea on Twitter. And NVIDIA 720 was my final target. It kept on going, and some lot of call flow came in. I gave everybody this call flow that there's 1 million call flow, 8-10 calls coming in. It's just crazy. NVIDIA, this is the point, is just crazy. Just trade the options, risk. Even if you risk 100% on options, it's most likely going to be a winner as long as they keep pushing it. It's going to have a big red day for sure, where NVIDIA like pulls back like 30, 40 points. But till that day, we just trade it long every day. We nail it, we do it, and that's all we need. Alright guys, now I'm going to talk about our midday trade. This was a midday trade on ARM, right? So let's see what happens. So ARM was our day 2 setup. Yesterday was day 1, today was day 2. Initially it was a day 2 bearish, right? So I think you could short it. That's what I was talking about. And let me see if I gave pivots on ARM. So pivot I gave was 109. So under 109 you could short scalp it to 102, 103. I was waiting for a C minus versus 100. You know, if it goes to 100, that's always a psychological bounce. You could trade it. I didn't get it. I didn't long it, but you know, it was a good scalp in the morning short side. Now, like I always say, you don't have to find the bottom. You have to find your best, most probable entry. You have to find the entry that you think will make you money, not the bottom dips. You know, when you know that it's going to keep going higher from your entry, that's what it matters. It does not matter that it came from 102. That does not matter. What matters if you are buying here where we were buying. So I walked everybody through this trade. I told them how to buy this, right? So I told them it's breaking out. Watch if it holds the dip. This candle pulled back. I told them this candle has to hold. This candle has to hold. Your risk should be under the previous 10-minute candle, and then you long it. And then it held. I told everybody it held. And after that, the trade from 110 went to 118. You know, almost $8 per share profit. Live discussion on this one. Those who were in the community, how to trade this repeatable 512 3450 curl. This is a midday curl setup that I teach a lot in my webinars. I tell everybody how to trade this midday curl 512 3450 repeatable setup, straight up, beautiful win, amazingly done. You know, people did really good in ARM, you know, so really good job by a lot of people on ARM. You know, Harpal did good, Jaswinder did good, you know, so that's what I love about my community. RKS did good. He got 50% on his ARM, you know, so see, he was happy how I explained how to take the longs on ARM, you know, so that's how you do it. So you should see all the comments, right? And just before I move to the next ticker, so the point was, when this push happens, you watch this next pullback, you add this pullback, you know, and you put stops here. If it starts to work, you add more and scale in, and it started to work, pushing, it pushed to 113. You want to log 30-40%, that's fine. You don't get scared on this pullback. You hold, because 512 EMA cloud is still holding, and then you get the big move. So very proud. You can see how everybody did in ARM. Very good trade, midday, profitable for the whole community. All right, guys, let's talk about Google. So Google was a trade idea that I have been sharing on Twitter as well with my community for some time. I will show you the Google before and after so that you understand what I'm talking about. Let's go. So I posted this Google idea the day before yesterday that if SPY breaks 500 or QQQ, Google will be my main watch. Why? Because it's a gap fill repeatable setup, not a random trade that I woke up and like Google. Google is lagging behind other names, and there's a nice gap on Google from 145 all the way to 151s, right? So that's why. So this was before and this was after 148.83, right? You want to see more? Here you go, 150s, almost there. So that was my live guidance to Twitter, all my followers, and of course we were long Google in the community. You know, it was all about trading the setup, guys, trading the setup. My final target is 1450. I'm still holding some for this swing into the gap. I told everybody, you know, so you can see how good this setup was, guys. These are the setups you need to play. These are the setups you need to play. You don't need to, you know, play anything random. So that is important. So let's look at this one, guys. Net, it was supposed to be our main play, but it didn't really give us anything. I'll show you what net did, right? So net, if I go to 2-minute candle, you can see much better what happened in the net. So net was at the open, it was just pushing, right? It tried to push over the pivots. We can go back and look at my news plan. So my plan on net was simple. 115 was my first pivot, right? Support was 106, 102, and you know, I was only interested to long over the pivot of 115. I didn't see that action because the first candle right away pulled back, and I was not long doing the mistake of just longing that. And I said it, and I was on voice talking about it. I was watching to long if 110 holds, but when I saw this big flush, I said no long for me, right? You can see here, that's what I'm saying at 10:34 when it was pulling back to 110s. 110s pullback we were watching, but when it did pull back to 110, I did tell everyone I'm not interested. I'm only interested in the shorts, right? It keeps failing, and it kept failing, and the short it was, and it failed from 110 to 105. I told everybody you can scalp short. Here's where I told short scalp starter. That's what I told everybody. I can go to 1 minute to show you that, you know, how this kind of worked out. So if you see on the net on this smaller time frame that I said I'm starting the short on this starter, and you know, that's where I scalped it from you know, from 110s to all the way to 105s. And I told everybody, be fast, be careful, because it's gonna swipe back at you. You know, you have to be fast in the morning. And I said I'm covering the shares on the way at 9:38. I told everybody 110 was my starter, and I was covering in 105, 106s, so that was a short, and I said it's gonna swipe back up. I didn't touch it after that because there was no setup for me to touch it. You know, it was under the clouds. I couldn't long it. You see, I couldn't fade it because it's slightly over the clouds. You know, there was no really a setup. It was showing me a downtrend line. You know, I'm just glad that I didn't lose money on it, and I just made a nice opening short win. All right, let's look at MSTR. So guys, MSTR was on watch. Why? Let's go back to our news play. So both coin and MSTR was on the watch. Coin did not do anything, did not confirm, so I didn't touch it. But MSTR, I was interested in the Lottos. I told everybody Lotto watch for 650s, right? So Lotto watch for 650. We didn't do anything on coin, but I did tell everybody that Bitcoin stocks are, you know, mooning. You know, you need to watch them. This was my Bitcoin lead, you know. So I had some Lottos. I had some Lottos on MSTR, and you know, initially I didn't like this fade, and but when it bounced from 34.50, right? That's when I added some Lottos, and then they pushed nicely. You know, it was a nice trade on those Lottos today. Nothing special, but was a decent move. The plan was given in the pre-market 650s. You know, kind of worked out. So ILMN was a loser today, losing idea. I saw a big push, and I thought it's going to hold, but you know, I added on the pullback, but right away it failed, and I got out for a loss. But it was short though, right? If you go to my news plan, I did not short this one because I was doing good in other plays, but I would have shorted it, and because if you look here, ILMN neutral if holds 141. If not, it can fill the gap. Look what I said, 141, if not, can fill the gap. It did not hold 141, and right away it filled the gap for $5, right? So long loser, but on the short side you see the fade, right? So you always turn, you do not hold if it breaks that pivot level. Do not hold your short, just get out. Do not think twice. Do not hold your long, just get out, and you short it under 141 and fade it. So let's look at Pepsi. So Pepsi, what was the news plan on Pepsi? Let's go back. News plan on Pepsi was okay. Mixed fourth quarter results were mixed. Revenue was 27.5 billion, missing the consensus. Support pivot was 170 to 40, bullish to neutral versus the clouds, but 170 to 40 was my bullish to neutral. and let's see what happens. Right away it came under the clouds. You see this pivot came from yesterday's price here, 1 hour level. This was a 1 hour level, and it broke, and it's a short. That I told everybody right away, it's a short. Still heavy, it's a short. Even if you missed that initial short, by the time I told at 171, it faded to 167s, almost $4 short there on PEP. So that's, you just have to follow the pivots and the repeatable setup. No long, just like ILMN. But this was never actually gave you. ILMN still gave me some idea to long it. Pepsi never gave. It faded right away. It broke the pivots right away, and it was a fade right away. It actually broke it in the pre-market. It was under the pivot, so it was bearish. Right away it was bearish. Right away it was bearish this time. So let's talk about AFRM. So what was AFRM doing? So AFRM, I thought it's going to hold a little bit. So I'll try to long scalp it. Pullback, I did the pullbacks. When it broke 34.50, I was out. I took the loss. I moved on. And again, it was similar to ILMN setup. When it's under the cloud, you short it. You turn bearish, right? I said that fade under the cloud, good for short scalps on the pops. I said that short scalps on the pops, and that fade from pop to this resistance cloud faded 42.36. So that was easy $2 per share short idea that was successful. All right, guys, let's look at CYBR. So CYBR, guys, in the morning, CYBR had a profit target of Morgan Stanley 255. I said if holds the clouds, it's a Lotto watch. You could trade the Lottos. And not only CYBR, guys, the whole sector. Let me show you the whole sector. If I go to the cybersecurity sector, the whole sector was, guys, doing good today. It was, if I go to 1 day, 1 minute candle, you look at this, what it was doing. I need to fix something here. It's not coming up right. Yeah, right here. Let's go here. Let's go to the cyber security, right? So cyber security, guys, cyber was up 20%. PNW, CRWD, Zscaler. These are my 4 cyber security stocks, and I talked about all of them. I talked about all of them because cyber is strong. They are strong, and because they are strong, because of cyber's Morgan Stanley upgrade. And cyber went on. What was my pivot I gave everybody, right? The pivot I gave everybody was 262. So it goes from the 262 already over the 262, right? It broke out of the 262 right at open, and it was a long right away from 265 all the way to 280, guys. That was, the whole sector was strong. Even at 10 a.m. I talked about whole sector. CrowdStrike was 52-week breakout. That pushed as well, But cyber kept on. Cyber kept on because Morgan Stanley upgrade, nice chart. It was a day 2 after the earnings, so day 2 setup, upgrade, A+, beautiful move. So let's talk about bill now. So bill is the bill was a short. Right, we were long yesterday, we longed the bounce yesterday, but this morning bill was a short, right? You can't get biased when system says short is short. So bill, neutral to bearish, only long if it pushes over the cloud. I gave that warning to everyone in the pre-market, only long if it pushes over the clouds. Did it push over the clouds? 512? No. Did it push over 34.50? No. So it's a short. I kept talking about short all morning. And then keep reminding people about that it's short, is heavy, still heavy. 65.71 was the first target, and then it hit 63, and then it curled, and that's when we exited. So the point is, you follow the plan, follow the pivots, follow the system. Easy short. If you shorted this bear flag breakdown, or you shorted in the morning, that was a $6 short for you guys. So alright, guys, let's talk about AMD. So what happened to AMD? What was AMD really doing? AMD was weak in the morning. There was no long. I told everybody in the morning that AMD, there was no long on AMD. But then it broke out of the pivot middle of the day. Let's see what was our pivot. Our pivot was 171, right? So 171 was our pivot, and then it broke out of that 171 later in the day, right? Who knows why it squeezed up, but it pushed straight up to 175. You know, look at this range. Wow, crazy range. And then it did pull back to 171. You know, you could have done a C minus short as well if you wanted, but then it provided another trade end of the day. That's the idea that was that I liked and that I was sharing with everyone. This reversal over the clouds, nice defined risk at 171, you know, dollar risk, and it ended up going to 172, 70, 173, right? So it ended up giving you nice $1.50 profit by end of the day. Nice midday setup. So this was a midday setup. It was a midday setup. I shared it on trading floor. So that's what it was about. Midday setup, repeatable. All right, let's look at PayPal, guys. So PayPal was simple, guys. PayPal was a day two. You know, you can see we were talking about PayPal, and you see my recaps. If you are not in the community, you watch my recaps, you know my day two plays. The rules are simple on day two plays. If they are under yesterday's pivot, under the clouds, it's a short. If it's over the cloud next day, it's a stress-free long. What did PayPal do? It moved over the pivots. Let me show you the pivot I gave on PayPal was 5680. So it moved over the 5680 pivot, moves over the cloud. It's nothing but a long. Nothing but a long, gets over the cloud. You miss the first move, you wait for this pullback flag pattern that I teach you. You add long here, keep your risk here, trade it long all day solid. Beautiful, beautiful. And so many people were long in the community and PayPal. I am so proud of them. You know, really, really good. Honit was long. Really, really well done, guys. That's how you make consistent money. That's how you do repeatable midday setups, guys. Just beauty. You know, there was a reason. You know, that's why in midday 67% of people were green in the community, only 14% were red. You know, so because of these my teachings, because of their dedication, their hard work, that's what it is all about, guys. All right, guys, and now I'm going to talk about the SPY breakout trade. So guys, we all know, you know, I've been talking, you guys might have seen me, I've been talking about you know, this let me go to the daily chart or SPY. You know, I've been talking about the SPY breakout that we were watching, right? So what were we watching? We were watching SPY 500 breakout. That's what we wanted to trade, because we knew once 500 breaks, it's a psychological level, market is going to push. Also, there's a lot of you know, options sold by market makers. So there's a gamma level. They are going to cover anything, any options they sold. They are probably going to cover their positions. So we would see a big move. We did not get any crazy move, but we still, the breakout worked finally. We've been waiting for it. So we had the other day we had SPY futures, right? So there's SPY futures, there's SPX index, and then there's ETF. Everything is based off, of course, the index, but you know, we trade them separately, and they have their own own way to trade. So when ES broke 5,000 the other day, which is always, ES is always the most advancing, right? That's when we got this breakout on SPY. Let me go there. That's when we got this breakout, when ES was breaking over 5,000. And then we went sideways yesterday because the market makers did not want us to break out, because if they sold any calls, or if they sold any calls, then they want to make sure they don't lose money in a gamma squeeze, so they kept it pinned. And if they bought any calls, then they are just locking the profit by selling the shares, right? Just lock it in. If price comes there, sell the shares, because your calls are about to be in money, so you lock your profit. So either way, so the point is, the market makers, institutions, you know, so these are not the retail forces which are keeping it pinned. It's bigger forces than us, but all we can do is just follow them. If they're pinning us, we try to avoid anything, right? So what happened today? This morning in the pre-market, SPY gapped up. There was a new CPI revision. Always spoils the setup, always, right? So SPY gapped up and then filled the gap right at open, you know, this flush. spoiled the gap up. So but what happened? SPY held that lows, moved back over clouds, became bullish. So guys, that was it. So what we are doing here is so what I was talking about, sorry, I got sidetracked. So we became bullish, right? The SPY becomes bullish, and QQ is already breaking out. So that's when I'm tweeted about these setups that, you know, I'll show you. So there was my SPY setup, right? That came later in the day, and that's when I was wanting to trade this 500 breakout. That's when I told my community I'm scalping long, I'm scalping SPX 5 or 25s, out of money, Lotto options. And not only SPY, QQQ, SPY guys, if you look at QQQ, that was the another breakout that I gave everybody on Twitter, and of course in the community. I'm on live stream, so everybody sees that what I'm sharing on my live stream and my voice. This was the setup on QQQ. So you clearly see both the setups, and you see what QQQ did. Although QQQ was not as strong as a level, and it then breakout, the calls went 100%, easy trade there, made money. But my focus was SPY, right? So when I see this 500 breakout, I take a starter, I add into this breakout. And the funny thing is, you know, it was still not breaking out, and I was like, it's lame 500 cycle breakout. But right after I said that, it went boom, you know, SPY pulled. See, I was doing continuously updates, even Twitter's testing, you know, I try to teach people how things work, testing pre-market highs, scale out on SPX calls. And I averaged up in my Lottos, that's what I said. And then after that, it was just to hold. I used my profits to add more Lottos. So you see, I went further. So my calls were up 100%, 82%. They ended up 200% on both of the calls. This was the trade, guys. SPY breakout, QQQ breakout, you know, just step by step. And I, you know, the reason I show this to my community, I don't do that much, that you have to hold your winners. If I'm trading a breakout, I'm just get out here. That's not how it works. When I'm in a failed breakout, I'm gonna lose much more. Then why do I get out when breakout is working? You know, I got out right at the top on most of my options. You can see there, right? 211%, 200%, and you know, my 520s went into money on SPX, 525s went into money, and you know, they were, I think one of them was like just $1 and went to $4, something like that. But my point is, that's how you trade. You know, we were ready for the setup. I just didn't wake up and think, oh, today I'm gonna long SPY. I was ready for this breakout. You saw my tweets. I guided everybody, on my Twitter followers as well, on the you know, on this breakout. And I did share the call wall. You see the call wall, you know. So this is some application, I think it's Gamma Edge or something. So that shows me how much delta is there, gamma. There's a lot of videos out there. You can go learn about net delta, gamma. But that was the point, guys, and that was the push. That made our day fabulous day. A lot of guys we traded in the community, SPY breakout long. Beautiful day, guys. So that was it, guys. We're ready. See you all, you know, on Monday. You have a great weekend. Have a great Sunday. And I will see you on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.